Hello and welcome back to the Innsmouth Case with me, Bardon. Right, so we're going back to the lighthouse. Let's see what actually happens this time. A path consisting of jagged rocks lead to the lighthouse in the harbour. The lighthouse is on the end of a narrow strip of land. As you walk towards it, the surging waves risk drenching your clothes in icy salt water. It takes all your concentration and some balancing not to wipe out the slippery rocks, or wipe out on the slippery rocks. In your mind's eye, new bills are already fluttering into the mailbox. One from the shoe repair shop, one from the physiotherapist. An overturned wooden sign lies on the ground between a few of the rocks. You read the label. Warning, absolutely no trespassing. Innsmouth hasn't been precisely inviting since your arrival, so you already know the tune. You approach the lighthouse, looking for shelter. But with every step you take, the place becomes more and more unwelcoming. The grey clouds transform into a mighty storm. Lightning strikes the top of the tower and sparks fly. Despite the storm, the lighthouse keeper hasn't put on the signal, so there is no beam of light to guide boats out there safely to the harbour of Innsmouth. Soon you're completely drenched, but you make it at last. You're standing at the door leading to the inside of the lighthouse. Some joker has scratched something into the flaking white layer of paint on the surface of the door. Do not come any closer. They want your body. But we know why that is now. This sounds suspiciously like a UFO sect. A UFO sect, damn nerds. What are they scared of? Yesterday it was chemtrails. Today it's, well, what actually? Man-eating plants? Surely there's some kind of cuckoo club sitting up there in the warmth playing a round of pen and paper. Embarrassing. What passes as human these days? You decide to rough them up a little. You consider the dangers that this dilapidated old building may hold. A fragile building about to collapse. You avoid others with aluminium hats, sex-hungry, mindless and naked cultists. House dust. Not to mention the missing girl that you need to find. Still, how often do you come to a place like this? Almost automatically your hand comes to rest on the black iron door handle and pushes it down slowly and carefully. The door opens a crack, giving you a small glimpse into the neglected interior of the lighthouse. Darkness. Let's enter. Unsure what to do next, you peek inside the darkness. It's a dark, tall building. A very, very tall and thin building. Admittedly, it is highly unlikely that the lighthouse will collapse a day of all days. At least this is what you keep repeating in your mind, like a mantra. You step inside. It's dry but cold. The icy stale air cools your shivering limbs even further. A spiral staircase leads up to the higher levels and to the top of the lighthouse. On the higher floors you can see round windows in the side of the wall, through which thunder and lightning throw brief flickers of light. Even the lowest corridor catches some of this light, so that you find yourself not completely in the dark. There are also some lamps that wind up along the banister. The black and white tiles on the floor are probably not being cleaned since the dawn of time. Storage boxes are cluttered around the place, and take up a... Excuse me. Fit of yawning lately. And take up about a third of the area of the ground level. To your astonishment, the walls of the lighthouse consist of a solid stone foundation. The metallic red and white painted exterior cladding must have been installed sometime later as a modernization measure. You think that a sex cult in here is now a bit unlikely, but you do not want to give up hope just yet. What now? Let's inspect the boxes. Considering that the lighthouse is easy to reach from the port, it strikes you as odd that there are all of these supplies here. The boxes seem to hold food supplies, which make up the bulk of the goods, and loads of spare electric parts. You inspect one of the open crates that, according to its label, has been delivered by a company from Salem. Spare lamps, tools, wiring. In theory, even a dusty system, such as this one, can be brought back to life with all these parts. The food is not quite to your taste, but efficient. Tinned tuna, sauerkraut, and all kinds of canned fruit still fill fill over half of one of the open crates. 4 of the boxes are empty. 12 others are still untouched. Whoever lived here must have avoided contact with the locals, like the devil avoiding holy water. Finally, some sensible people. Okay, well, let's flip the light switch. Trying won't hurt, unless of course you blow a fuse. You flip the light switch and wait in the twilight for something to happen. You know from old lamps in the cellar that they sometimes need a little time. You flip the switch again and again. You come to the conclusion that you'll have to make do with the pale daylight. As you look more closely, you realise that there's an inscription just above the light switch. Right, so last time we read the inscription, we're not going to do it this time. Just going to climb up. The banister has suffered the most age damage. Ravages of time have not only worn away the paint on the metal, but also the iron struts and pillars themselves. The scaffold seems to move precariously as you walk up, just as if the construction is about to collapse. When you're halfway up the stairs, you can hear a loud metallic creaking sound. The stairway suddenly jerks down a little, and your insides feel like they continue dropping to the ground. Fine dust flutters down onto your head. You try to guess the depth of the fall. If the structure were to collapse now, you'd break quite a few bones, or worse. The chances of you getting caught up in a sex cult decrease with every step you take. Let's keep walking. Just because the core of the spiral staircase is a bit loose, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to collapse, right? And perhaps it's just the residual alcohol in your bloodstream that's causing everything to spin. You carefully continue your way to one of the higher floors. About 30 feet above the entrance hall is the first mezzanine floor. A metal plate in the core of the spiral staircase would also provide some stability to the whole thing, if the whole thing wasn't so damn rusty. You see a plain bed, a desk with a telephone, a chest of drawers and a wardrobe with an embedded mirror. A Persian carpet is laid out over the ribbed metal floor. A pathetic attempt to make this room a little more homely. At least there is a window on this level. Rain pelts against the glass. The weather outside seems to get worse and worse. You hesitate. Let's keep looking at the room. There's not much to explore here. Some neatly folded sheets and bedding have been placed on the bed, waiting a new inhabitant, perhaps? You turn to the desk, or on it are a few envelopes and an atlas. You inspect the telephone. It's an old telephone with a dial plate. Just for fun, you pick up the receiver and get a dial tone. Next to the phone is another note. Communication apparatus connects acoustically to other similarly constructed equipment after the identification number is entered. The identification number can be obtained in person or from central register provided. Under the phone are 2 old books dating back to the 70s. The first one is a consumer... excuse me. I don't know why, but I'm overcome with yawning tonight. The first one is a consumer electronics manual. A short leaf through shows you manuals and construction plans for TVs, cameras, telephones, radios, cars and the like. The other book is a Boston phone book. There's a bookmark peeking out of the side of it. When you open the book, on the page, the phone number of a carpet cleaner company is marked. You can make neither head nor tail of the matter. Let's not touch the telephone. You inspect the bed. Doesn't look super cozy. There's a note pinned to the headboards. Plates of rest, used for sleep cycle and procreation rituals, traditionally used during the night time. For care instructions and terminology, check. The rest of the note is not legible and covered up by strange scribbles. Okay, let's keep going on. You think you've seen enough and continue to follow the banister up the stairs. Meanwhile, thunder and lightning outside has become so furious, just as if the centre of the storm is the lighthouse itself. Stoically, you continue your way upstairs. The banister continues to wobble and squeak suspiciously. but it withstands the strain. The radius of the spiral staircase gradually becomes smaller. You estimate that you are now halfway up the building. You walk past another platform floor. This level is obviously used for nothing else but storing boxes. At least 30 or 40 stacked boxes, full to the brim with books. Seeing all these books causes you to be sick. Really? Working in a lighthouse and these boars do nothing but read? Don't they have radios or mobile phones with these super addictive games? Remember that there's no mobile reception in Innsmouth, and you don't actually want to know what sort of radio stations are popular with these fishing people. No, you're pretty certain that the reason all these books are here must have been sheer desperation. You hesitate. Let's inspect the books. You take a moment to examine the boxes and their contents more closely. Quickly you realize that these are almost exclusively non-fiction books. You discover lexicons, grammar for English and Spanish, non-fiction books on biology, chemistry, physics and geography. There is also a Bible, a guide to etiquette and a worn handbook for tourists on the East Coast. Out of interest you flip through some of the books. Newest ones seem to be from around the 1980s, but some go as far back as the 20s. Many are decorated with strange curls around the edges. In the last box you find a few books that differ greatly from the scientific character of the rest. These are books about occultism and obscure religions, titles like The Mysteries of the Worm, Unspeakable Cults, and Liber Ivoris. Then there is also a book by popular UFO nutcase, and suddenly everything makes sense. Maybe the lighthouse keeper was a little soft in the head? Probably the loneliness. You keep walking up the stairs, past another mezzanine, and then you're on the upper level of the lighthouse. It's getting more and more unlikely that you'll find anything relating to your case here. Oh well. Let's go up to the last level. No, I should have examined the mezzanine. Why didn't I? The last steps are always the hardest. Or was it the first ones? No matter which steps, your heart is now beating so strongly that you can feel it pressing against your chest. Once you're back home, you should really consider a healthier lifestyle. At last, you reach the top floor of the lighthouse. Dull glass windows separate you from the thunderstorm outside. Rain pours down on the panes, and lightning occasionally illuminates the sky and reveals the billowing sea. If you're an artist, this would be an ideal place to paint tasteless paintings with ships on the churning waters. In the centre of the floor, there is a metal column that must be there to support the lighthouse's uppermost platform. You assume that all this serves to stabilise and balance the construction. Apart from that, the floor is completely unfurnished. Sheets of paper with strange doodles are fixed to some of the window panes. Penciled portraits of people, trees, houses, dogs. Around these drawings someone seems to have made notes, but you can't make out the language. Okay. Forgive me, but I need to have a drink of water, so 1 second. Ah, that feels better. Okay. You wonder if it was a destitute artist who lived here towards the end, or some sort of Russian sleeper agent. Another ramp leads to the top of the lighthouse, where the actual lighthouse apparatus must be installed. You walk up the steep stairs. You've done it. You made it to the top of the lighthouse. Not in a million years did you think that this job would take you to such an exciting place in a boring coastal town. There's still a nasty thunderstorm out there, and the lightning keeps illuminating the glass cage. In erratic intervals, spellbound, you look at the roaring waves. They're beautiful. The powerful and steady movement of the waves, the foamy saltwater splashing up oh so incredibly high. You're so enticed by all the majestic beauty that you almost wish you were outside now, to feel the fresh sea breeze on your skin. But, wait, why did you come here again? You try to tear yourself away from the endless spectacle of the sea and turn your attention to the centre of the small glass dome. It is then that you make a curious observation. The lighthouse has no light at all. There's no light construction that could rotate in the direction of the harbour or the sea. Not even a flashlight on a microphone stand. Where would you expect some sort of electrical machine, there is only a black column of about 3 feet height, whose curved forms merge at the top into a kind of marble plate. An altar, a voice in the back of your head informs you. There's a cube on the altar. Let's leave this place immediately. Okay, get the hell out of here. You decide that this is the official end of your career as a lighthouse tourist. You abruptly turn away from the altar and the cube on it and walk to the ramp that leads down to the lower levels. You notice that there's a piece of paper pinned up right next to the entrance. Let's read the piece of paper. The note has 2 columns, one in English and the other with a confusing scribble, which by now you think must be some kind of unknown language. Oh, which by now you think must be some kind of unknown language. Okay. That sentence for a second was some kind of unknown language. In English you read, "Welcome to your new body. Theory and practice are 2 very different animals," is a proverb of this culture. Of course, you've been prepared for your mission in the best possible way, but even the great library of Fnacotus does not hold all knowledge. After all, this is the reason you are here. As you progress downwards, we have prepared different zones to get you started with your mission. Explanatory texts are in the dominant local language, English, to help you get used to using it. More complex issues are explained in Yit. Zone 1, Local Flora, Fauna and Geography. From the viewing platform of the building, you can already observe some objects and phenomena that are commonplace for this epoch and era. Familiarize yourself so that you will not be surprised if you encounter these objects during your mission. Zone 2, Coordination and Integration. Every body is different, as you certainly know. If this is your first experience in a body with legs or hands, we have set up a test zone where you can get used to these new organs. Take your time to practice. If you cannot control your legs or hands, you will put your host body and mission in danger, either by injury or exposure. Zone 3. Here we have accumulated contemporary knowledge about culture and customs of the target society. Of course, you have been briefed in detail, but in view of the enormous local differences of this epoch, as well as the enormous differences in customs and traditions, which can sometimes develop within a generation, a refresher is certainly appropriate. Please take a few days to familiarize yourself with the local specificities. Zone 4. This is your temporary abode, equipped with sleeping facilities, resources for trade, as well as a communication apparatus, which enables you to contact our permanent base in the target epoch. Zone 5. Food depot and exit. When you feel ready, you can leave the tutorial zone and start your mission. Zilbar and good luck. You have the sudden but still vague feeling of having narrowly escaped a catastrophe. Panic fills you and you run down the ramps and stairs, regardless of the fragile construction. You let the heavy metal door fall shut again. As the lock clicks with a muffled sound, you feel a sense of relief. A weight seems to have fallen off your shoulders. The strange notion that you've almost escaped the dire fate spread all through your body. But with every step you take away from the lighthouse, that feeling disappears again into nothing. Sweet oblivion. The way back to the harbour, via the stone path, becomes easier with every step. By the time you have made it through the uneven stretch back to the mainland, the dark clouds have completely disappeared and the previous lashing wind has given way to a tepid sea breeze. It's almost stopped raining. Only your soaked clothes still bear witness to this short but intense wonder of nature. The back of your head is tingling. Keep looking back over your shoulder. What a strange place. As if to reassure yourself the lighthouse really exists, you look back over your shoulder. It's still there, with its faded red and white paint. It seems to you like an old sepia-tinted photo from long forgotten times. You speed up. You're suddenly yearning for human contact, although you're not entirely sure why. Okay, and that's where we're going to leave that one. So I hope you have enjoyed. I hope you are keeping safe out there, and I hope the new year is treating you well. And one more hope is that I will see you next time. Goodbye. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, maybe consider hitting the subscribe button there on the right, or checking out some other videos here on the left, or perhaps you might even share with some friends.